Contracts 2.
Contracts
So,
2.
Electric
Electric
Boogaloo.
Boogaloo. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. We should probably start with a quick 5-minute cliff notes about
Okay.
what contracts are. So Brandon, what are the parts of the contract?
There are three main ones instead of the five ones I was convinced of.
Mm-hmm.
There is offer and acceptance.
Yep.
Fuck, sorry, that's different notes I had. Uh, Consideration,
Yep. Offer,
and
acceptance, consideration.
and then, oh fuck, is it? It's not capacity. Is it? Legality is the last one.
So capacity and legality are they're kind of under here. You need to be able to get into a contract, and the contract has to be legal. You can't have a contract for anything that's illegal. You can't get into a contract with someone who can't get into a contract. Like a fucking minor.
So
Like a baby can't
yeah.
make a contract.
So intention to create legal relations with that. No, offer and acceptance and just consideration. Those are the only two that,
Yep.
or three.
These are the three. Like this is what a
Yes.
contract is. The other two
Okay.
are wrapped in. Offer.
Yep.
That's from the person offering the contract. They have to make an offer. They have to make it properly. Acceptance. You have to accept. It's a mirror image rule, except for the exceptions we talked about previously. But for generally, usually, normally, you accept the exact offer given to you. If you accept anything else, it's not a contract, not an acceptance. Consideration, you have to. Both people have to get something. It doesn't need to be very much. It can be as little as a peppercorn, like a little corn kernel. But there needs to be something. If it's literally just I'm giving this to you, then it's like a gift. That's not a contract.
Does it? Yeah. Does the thing have to be a physical thing?
No, it can be a service.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Service. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it can just fully be a service, and you'll be
Correct.
pretty good there. And then of course we have other things floating around, but that's what a contract is. It is a legally enforceable promise, and the government will enforce it. It's a promise the government will enforce. So I was talking to Marcus about it, but two people can have an agreement, and it can be in writing. Doesn't necessarily make it a contract, because government won't enforce it. Now, we should probably talk about what happens when the government enforces a contract. So, the government enforces a contract. Usually people are trying to get one thing when a contract is breached. Brandon, for the big prize, what do you think most people are trying to get in court when a contract is breached?
An apology from the party that has money. That dollar
Money.
fucking bill.
Dollar bills, bro. Most times, people want fucking money.
Damn, crazy. Would never have thought that.
Now, sometimes, when people are wanting money, they can get maybe too much money, or something will go wrong. And so there's this special type of damages that we call restitution damages.
I've heard that word before.
Yep. Restitution damages are basically when one party is unjustly enriched. Unjust enrichment is kind of what you're thinking about it as. Usually it's like the defendant was benefited at the plaintiff's expense. So you have the P and the V and the D. Plaintiff, defendant, person bringing the suit, person who is trying to defend themselves against the suit. The defendant got money at the plaintiff's expense. They basically stole the money, or in some way did it, and the plaintiff is trying to get the money back. That in its core is restitution. And so the whole concept is that we measure restitution by how much the defendant was unjustly enriched minus, and this is kind of where it can get a little weird, the value of a gain that the defendant was going to get anyway. So here's an example. Like, let's say plaintiff, go ahead and we have plaintiff, we have the defendant. Let's say we have the V. Plaintiff has a contract for like $10,000 for the defendant to build a bridge. It's a pretty cheap bridge. It's very small. And like they pay half up front. So the defendant gets like 5K, let's say, or whatnot. And based on how everything was shaping out here, like let's say like the defendant would have like always spent like 1K for tools or whatnot. Like there's just like there's a value amount floating there that the defendant was always going to use, and it's not like enriching them. Like this is like the material cost. This is better.
Yep.
Like this is like the steel. Maybe they're gonna get for the bridge. But now, as everything's happening, maybe the defendant doesn't build the bridge correctly, and like halfway through it's canceled. So the plaintiff is saying, hey, like for some reason like this deal fell through, you took this money, I want it back. The defendant does not need to give 5K, they give 4K.
Yeah.
Because it's the unjust enrichment minus like that other gain. Because like you need to think about it as what's going in the pocket to unjustly enrich. It's unless the unjust enrichment is enriching them, like the other shit doesn't count. It's only what is like solely benefiting you. That's a big deal. Because people will be like, well, I had a contract for 200K and the court gave me back like 5K. What's the deal? It's like, well, because that 5K was the profit. Out of that 200K, the defendant was only going to make 5K because the rest was like infrastructure, like paying people or shit like that. Like they weren't actually being enriched that much. So this 200K wasn't very lucrative. They'd already bought everything, blah, 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 blah. Like maybe you could still get like that other 195 back, but restitution damages only covers this 5K. And you want to get restitution damages because they're pretty damn easy to get. It's just like, hey, they have money, Mr. Judge. They're not supposed to have that money. Can I get that money back, please? That's really cool. So that's restitution damages. There is one little thing. So let's say there's a contract. We're going to go P and D. And this plaintiff, this defendant, this plaintiff right here, has unicorn rides. They offer unicorn rides, Brandon, and they're valued at $3 million for unicorn rides. They're brand new business.
I bet we're getting a blowjob after this.
And the defendant was in a contract to like basically like purchase like this company or say or do business with them, and it's based on this $3 million evaluation. And like this defendant who was supposed to like get all the unicorn rides, do all this shit, they back out of the contract, and then the plaintiff, Unicorn Rides, says, hey, you basically took this $3 million evaluation that we had. I was expecting this $3 million. Like,
you booked the service and you didn't, pay for it.
Yeah, it's like you breached it. I want restitution damages because you were unjustly enriched because I was bringing business, blah, blah. So there's this thing. It's called the new business rule. New businesses may not recover for lost profits because there's no way to prove, Mr. Unicorn Rides, that you even have unicorns at this point. Well, kind of, because that's the traditional rule. There is a modern rule. The modern rule is that a new business may recover the profits, but only if they can like reasonably prove it. Like if they have evidence that meets the general rules. So you would have to prove that there's a unicorn. And if you can prove that you got this horse with a horn on its head, that's capable of giving rides to children, now you can recover. That's kind of like the new rule. The easier way, though, and what a lot of businesses try to do, is they will have, and you've seen this before, a liquidated damage clause. It's in the Grip Cov, actually. So, liquidated damages. What are they? Essentially, liquidated damages are damages that are put into a contract, like from the get-go, as the contract is being signed, being created, that say, no matter what, this is what the damages are going to be. We agreed to the damages before. If you breach the contract, this is what you pay. And it's awarded to the court, or awarded by the court if the party breaches. It's generally enforceable, these damages. They will be struck down if like a few things aren't met. Firstly, liquidated damages can't be a penalty. They have to literally just be damages to make you whole and not, remember Brandon, unjust enrichment. These damages can't lead to unjust enrichment. No. Cannot let that happen. So they can't be a penalty. They can't be like, Brandon, like we are entering a contract and you're going to put up like the HVAC system at my house. If you breach, because I really want this HVAC system by you, because you're going to be like the best HVAC guy ever, it's going to be like $1 million in damages. What? No. Like, okay. Like,
I'm not signing that.
well, yeah, I mean, most people don't know they'd sign something like that. But the
Yeah,
court being
fair.
like, obviously not, just on the basis of, is it going to take that much money for you to get another guy? For you to, like, have this, like, new agreement? And, like, sure, there might be, like, a delay cost in there. And say, like, there will be a delay, and that will cost me some money. But usually, like the liquidated damages aren't going to be for like everything. Like very rarely will you see liquidated damages of like 100%. But you could. They're not actively unreasonable all the time. But liquidated damages are usually just like this boilerplate number. That's like, okay, generally like this is fine. There are actually 2 requirements though for these damages, and this is what's been tripping me and others up for a while. So, number 1, at the time the contract was made, the damages have to be difficult to know. So, if I could say, okay, if we breach our HVAC contract, it would be a cost of $15,000 to me total. I give that exact number. There's not going to be a liquidated damages clause because it wasn't difficult to ascertain the number. Like you could pretty much determine what it was going to be. So you don't need this clause. Like it just becomes unreasonable, blah, 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 blah. And there are policy reasons for it, because if at the beginning we both say, well, in the course of a breach, it's going to be this. And like we stamp it. And we come back around and let's say like it goes like completely haywire or something, or like there's unforeseen circumstances. Like the liquidated damages can get in the way. It's also just not very efficient. So we say they have to be difficult to ascertain. You have to like not really know. And it can be as simple as like, oh, the damages could be $800 to $1,000.
Okay, so maybe like if I'm installing it and somehow I like hit a pipe or something and it floods, like that's gonna be different. Like it could be a small little puddle I'd make or a big puddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, oh. But if you can literally just say, oh, and if you just don't do the job, it's going to be this. It's like, well,
Yeah.
like if you don't do the job and it's going to be this. Okay, like we would rather just go to court and be like, this is the evidence, this is how much it costs, we're done. Instead of being like, okay, we're going to lock this in stone, because in the past we thought it would be one thing, but now because an asteroid hit your business, Brandon, and like you're just completely screwed, it's like now it becomes so much harder because liquidated damages like kind of like set in stone. They're just kind of automatic. And we'll see later how this automaticness could get in the way of like helping you out. But even this range of like 800 to 1,000, this is what tripped me up. This is considered difficult to ascertain, as long as there's just like a gap. So
A gap.
as long as there's a gap, I mean, who knows what my professor is going to like really say, but I don't think he's going to give it like this close. But as long as there's a gap, generally, usually, it seems like, from what I understand, you'll be able to get liquidated damages. There is a second requirement, though, for liquidated damages. And that second requirement is that the amount stated has to be reasonable. You have to have a reasonable amount. So, if the amount isn't quote-unquote reasonable, no good. That reasonable amount is calculated at 2 different times, though, depending on jurisdictions. It can be the anticipated, so it's like from the past, what did we think the damages were going to be, and were they reasonable? Or it can be right now, are the damages actually reasonable? Jurisdictions bounce back and forth. I have to analyze both if it's an essay. And what's reasonable? Hard to say. 15% of the total damages was reasonable. Sometimes 100% is reasonable. Sometimes it's not. I think it's just like, okay, if you sit with this number, does it make your stomach churn? And that's literally how I'm thinking about it. Whenever I look at something, if I go, I don't think that sounds right, it's probably not right. Like, there was a practice problem I did where it's like, okay, there's a music festival, and they booked a venue for like $300K. And they said in liquidated damages, for those 3 days, for each day missed, $100K in damages, in liquid damages for each day missed. I was like, seems pretty reasonable for each
100K
day.
a day.
Yeah, 100K a day.
3 days.
One third. I was talked out of it. And then going back around, I was like, oh no, this is reasonable. Not too much, it's fine. So it's like, yeah, okay. If you can actually just sit there and be like, how'd you get those damages? You're probably fine.
I mean, like, if you really want to fight it, if they spend like the whatever 10, I mean, I don't know how concerts work, but like 10K on materials, maybe 90, but like that sounds pretty fair. 100K.
Yeah, it's like okay, and like in
3 days, 100. Yeah.
And in the problem though, it was the thing that threw me off was like the actual damages were 25K because of like savings and like different policies they did. So the actual damages were only 25. So I was like, oh, is that reasonable in terms of like the actual number? Probably not. But like you have to analyze for both. And if the answer to either one is like, yeah, could be reasonable, then you kind of have to go with this one. Because the in the past anticipated damages will usually trump because liquidated damages happen in the past before anything happens. The most important thing to know is that the more difficult it is to like forecast damages, the more likely the liquidated damages are going to be upheld. So if you had no way of knowing how bad something was going to be, and you're just like, just to cover my ass, liquidated damages. Because I have no idea how much this is going to be, and I know I just need money, and this sounds fairly reasonable given what I know in the past. Court's going to be like, well, that's a reasonable number, because guess what? In the past, no one could really know what the damages were going to be. As long as it's not like $1 million for like an HVAC project that might cost only $20K, yeah, you're probably going to be fine. So liquidated damages, they can get kind of confusing because you have to kind of be like, how do I weigh these things? But generally, usually, they're fine. But Brandon, what happens when money is not enough? Because guess what? Can money get back your wedding day? Can money get back that heirloom that your mother left you in her will? Can money solve all your problems, Brandon?
Yes, you just buy something else.
No. No,
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 you
no.
can't replace memories.
Can't replace memories. And sometimes, like, guess what? I hired Athena to draw a drawing
For
for me.
mistake. Oh, okay.
Hey, I wasn't gonna have Athena, like, climb a mountain or anything. Chill out, chill out. But
Sorry.
but I wanted Athena's art style specifically. So like sure I could pay money to another artist, but they're not going to be Athena, right? Like they're just like a Athena like one half. They're not even as good.
Wish Athena.
Oh, the goddess. Yeah, we not like whatever the Hamilton version is, not the bootleg. So that
Okay.
brings us to the
Okay.
concept of coercive, equitable relief.
Oh
Basically,
God.
we're gonna force you to do something legally. It's the court going, damages aren't enough. We are going to force you to do this contract. And like put your face to the fire. And if you don't uphold this contract, if you don't do what we say to do, you're gonna go to jail. Like, high bar though, because remember, contracts are usually like private law between private citizens, not really like criminals. So the bar to like go to jail for like a private agreement is high. It's high. The general rule is damages have to be inadequate. There can't be a way to solve the problem with like money. It's just not enough. And there are like three parts of the inadequacy like analysis. I'm going to try to do them from raw memory. The first is if the defendant has no money. Guess what? If you have no money, it doesn't make sense to ask for money because you're not going to be able to get any money. So that's one way. If the defendant's like, I literally am broke. Sure. Yeah, okay, we're not going to ask for money then. Second is if it's like if it goes beyond monetary value, if there's like sentimental value, if it's like your childhood stuffed animal, like a teddy bear or like a bunny rabbit, I'm gonna make bunny rabbit ears, and if it burned up in a fire, it's irreplaceable. There's like an irreplaceability aspect of it. So like I would say like an Athena painting might have like an irreplaceable feature to it, based on like the techniques that are a part of it. Or three, there would be an impossibility to calculate damages. We just don't know how much it would cost. So, like, if I hired you, Brandon, to make me a particle collider that could formulate black holes and then shoot them into space to make wormholes to allow me to travel to other planets, what's the damages? Because and let's say that we knew for a fact you could do it, like you could build it, like the science is all there, it's proven, but like there's like you're just like the only guy that could make this machine. We don't know like what that could even cost. Like we don't know what's out there. Like can we put a value on that? No, we're just gonna have you do the contract, and you're going to make me my super collider to make a portal, and then fucking Cthulhu and his friends are going to come out of it because we tried to play God. But that's neither the point. The point is we didn't know how to calculate that because it's an unfathomable eldritch evil potentiality here. So these are the three things. Either the reason why the court would force someone to do something, they have no money. It's irreplaceable. How the fuck do we calculate that?
I fuck Cthulhu.
I fuck Cthulhu. Yeah, that's the general thought process behind it. However,
Okay.
the court has a level of discretion. Because even if those three things are true, Brandon, this is why the law is beautiful. It doesn't mean the court's going to give coercive equitable relief. They can still say, no, which is very funny. So, like, imagine Campbell's Soup, Brandon.
Okay.
Campbell's Soup. They have their chunky chicken soup with corn and carrots and broth in there. But we're going to focus on the carrots for right now. Those carrots, maybe they come from a specific farmer. Let's call him Farmer Connor. Farmer Connor. So Connor makes his carrots, right? He's farming up those carrots. But Connor has a really bad crop. A real bad crop. And so maybe like all the other farmers, they have like a really poor carrot crop. And so he bargained, so like each carrot costs 30 cents. But now like he could sell carrots to like another company, maybe like a rival company, for $3. And so little farmer Connor goes, shit, crops are bad. If I sell these carrots, I might not make enough money, but if I sell the carrots at like what they're worth, I'll be fine. So he sells the carrots to a whole other company. And Campbell's Soup goes, hey, we can't like, sure, like we could pay for other carrots if we contracted here. And also your carrots are very specific. They're very particular. We can't get these other carrots anywhere else. So we want all of our carrots to, like, we need our product to taste the same. If we get carrots from somewhere else, it's going to taste different.
People are going to know.
People are going to know we changed something. And they're going to...
Just like Coca-Cola.
Just like Coca-Cola. So, hey, Farmer Connor, you have to sell us these carrots. We're going to force you not to do that. Right, court? And the court goes, shut the fuck up. They, in Campbell's Soup versus Wentz, they told Campbell's Soup, shut the fuck up. Because one of the things they care about is unfair bargaining power. They say, you are a multi-million-dollar company, Campbell's Soup. That's a small-town farmer. What do you mean you, like, what are you talking about? He needs to make a living. You can go and get your carrots elsewhere. We're not going to force him to give you the carrots. We will force you to pay the value of the carrots for what it would have been for the contract. So he's going to have to give you money back.
Well, at least he's still making value.
But he's going to make some value for it. And like, you can get carrots elsewhere. Are carrots so non-fungible that you can't find other carrots? Get real. It's unfair. We're not going to support this.
It's a fucking carrot.
Yep, pretty much. This was in the 1930s when the courts were cool. We don't do this kind of shit anymore, as you can probably tell. We used to be awesome, Brandon. We used to tell corporations to shove it. But
now we suck their dick.
There was also a similar case where the contract talked about everyone's favorite thing, chicken.
I got chicken in front of me right now.
Yep, so we're gonna just draw this little guy. He's a chicken. Here, I'm gonna give him.
Looks like a penguin with a fat.
That's a chicken.
That's a chicken.
That's a chicken. And the contract said chicken. Thing is, though, chickens comes in all kinds of different sizes and varieties, blah, blah, blah. And color, yeah. And so they were like, what's a chicken? And so they fought over what's a chicken. Because another discretionary concern is, like, if the terms are uncertain. If we don't truly know what's being asked, we might not give injunctive relief. There's also undue burden. Like, if you're putting a huge burden on the defendant or on third parties, we're not going to force this relief. Like, part of the other reason for the farmer is if he gave all that money back and all that shit happened, he would be crushed. Like, he would go under. His business would die. So they're like, why would we force this contract to happen? That's stupid. Like, no, We're not letting this happen. Like, hey, like, farmer, you're gonna pay back like any difference in cost. So like, what the cost was less. It's basically like, oh, if they could find carrots at like 50 cents, it's like, okay, you're gonna pay like the difference in cost there. So you would pay like 20 cents per carrot basically, but you'd still take 10 cents home, and that would like get you through, is like the thought process, which is pretty good because we're not going to force people into terrible situations. In the 1930s, when the courts were cool, when we were so awesome, Brandon, now we suck. Now we can't even stand up to an orange. And that's really sad. We also used to care about public interest. That was another discretion that the courts had. Is this contract in the interest of the public? It's
No.
not. Throw it out. We're not going to force you to do anything because that's against the public's interest. Because we could think about those things. There's also something called latches. So, like, imagine Campbell's Soup waited like 2 years to sue because like they just needed money then. The latch principle is basically if you delay in, like, if there's like a reasonable amount of time to file a lawsuit, if you delayed in filing that lawsuit, yeah, we're not going to force someone to do something because you didn't do it fast enough. Like, it's obvious it wasn't important enough to you to get this thing done quickly. So that's the latch principle. Another is called unclean hands. So the unclean hands principle is kind of what it sounds like. Let's say, again, Campbell Soup. Campbell Soup released radioactive waste in the area, like destroying much of the carrot crop across the land and leading to the farmer's distress where he had to sell to someone else. You have unclean hands. You violated a principle of equity. Guess what? The reason why the farmer's in such a bad position and why everything is happening is because of you. Basically, if you're the problem, we're not going to help you. Because you're the problem. You're the problem. Why would we help you? We don't tell other campaign parties about this principle because that would not be good for them. If it's like, hey, guess what? If you started the problem, we don't need to help you. Like, as a principle of fairness, no,
we're responsible for this world too. I'll clean up the oil spill.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. It's like, well, shrug.
I'll take the burden of the week.
Burden of the week. Luther Burton the third. He's the burden of the week. You're welcome. But that's kind
True
of
insanity.
That's coercive equitable relief. That's when the court, instead of damages, forces you to do something. And I think, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Sometimes. It used to be a lot cooler than it is now. However, what if the contract is confusing? What if we don't know what the contract actually says? What if there are things that were left out of the written contract but should be considered? What do we do? Well, there is a whole rule set for figuring out contract meaning. And we're going to go over that. And the biggest thing, this is like the rule that I have spent months trying to wrap my head around, Brandon. So bear with me. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. It is confusing as fuck, but I'm going to try my best. It's called the parole evidence. I'm just going to put E rule. What is parole evidence? Parole evidence is evidence trying to be brought into the courtroom that is oral or like extrinsic. It's not written down. It's not in the contract. It's all this other evidence that's like what the situation was, what someone said, blah, 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 blah. But it's not on the paper. It's not written down. That's parole evidence. And so this rule is completely centered around like what evidence you can show a jury, what evidence you can't show a jury. Because when it's a problem of fact, he said, she said, he said, she said, blah blah blah. That is for a jury to figure out. Like, whenever it's a question of fact, you call in people, they'll make a decision. So what can you show them? Because if you show them everything, they might come to a dumb conclusion, because people are dumb. They could be very dumb. So, first thing you need to ask is, does this rule apply? Like that's step one. Number one, does the parole evidence rule apply? It applies to evidence created. Firstly, it has to be oral or extrinsic evidence. It has to be made before the contract was like written, when it was finally signed. So like, let's say this is a timeline of the contract. This is when the contract was signed. All evidence over here is okay. After it's signed, we don't look at this evidence, because this needs to be like the final point. Because a contract is sometimes called the meeting of the minds. You come together, you offer, you accept, there's consideration, blah, 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 but it's done. We want contracts to be like the end point in the timeline. So if you start saying shit over here after people have already agreed, that's kind of dumb to allow that in, because we already had a deal. Like, one party should be like, okay, like, this is done. We've made our deal. We're done. We're fine. We're not going to go see entropy. We've already made this decision. We don't need any more extrinsic evidence. Like, I think that's actually how I will probably think about it during my exam. Okay, have we agreed? Or is this an entropy moment? This is the question. This is the question. Because if the decision and like the meeting of the minds has already happened, we only go this way. And very importantly, this is like the third thing. It can't directly contradict or change anything like explicitly in the contract. Like, it has to be like not that. It has to illuminate what a term says, but it can't just be like, oh, actually, this whole different thing altogether. It has to give more context. So if it's like, oh, I contract with you, Brandon, to sell you a box of blueberries, the parole evidence can't come back in and say, actually, we agreed for me to sell you a box of strawberries. Like, that's completely different. Like, what do you think?
The contract says blueberries.
Yeah, the contract says blueberries. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't bring evidence that says, like, we go on the paper.
We signed.
Like, but the parole evidence might be okay if beforehand, Brandon, because I give you maybe a box of blueberries that can fit in your hand. You were expecting a box of blueberries that could fit in like a shipping container, and previously here, we might have in a conversation talked about, oh, like, how much does the box weigh? It weighs half a ton. Oh, that type of evidence might be very important for a jury to hear. That might be very, very important. So we can move on to like step 2, basically. Like, was the contract fully integrated? An integrated contract is a contract that's taken everything we've said before and either thrown it out, put it into the contract, whatever. It's basically a done contract. An integrated contract takes everything here and locks it away in this singular moment so that the contract is complete. It's full. It's lovely. Mwah, pristine. We need nothing else. So we have to ask, because if the contract is completely full and nothing else can go inside it, why the fuck are you introducing parole evidence? This doesn't mean anything anymore. Few things to note. An oral contract, a contract where like you and me are just talking, always not integrated because it's oral. It's not written on paper. There's not this moment where it's purely done. If there was a draft in a contract, by the way, so if we had a paper and then we made a new agreement as we were speaking that like obviously superseded this draft, this is not integrated because we kept on going afterward. Like if we actively keep on going and like we acknowledge this is a draft and like we just go along, nah, that doesn't work. That does not work at all. And one of the major things that you have to look for integration is something called a merger clause. Basically, the merger clause is just a clause saying, hey, everything that we talked about so far is null and void, and it's all just like wrapped into this contract. Like everything is here. It's like a direct statement of both of us saying, when we sign for the selling of blueberries, like no matter what, everything we talked about, everything we want is in this paper. So that is completely integrated, usually. Say usually, but like we'll talk about that later. So we're determining whether the writing is integrated. Then step 3 is the degree of integration. How integrated are we? And the how integrated are we is kind of a bigger question. Fine. Can I go use the restroom real quick? And then we'll get back to this.
Wow, I said no, and he still went. Okay. Yeah, fuck. God damn it. Yeah. Balls. Oh, I should use the restroom. That's fine. We're good. We're Gucci, fam.
Okay, I'm back.
I am alive.
That is good. That is good. You should. You should be alive.
Yeah, I guess.
But the important thing to know is to live, we must know how integrated we are. And Brandon, I'm going to introduce you to the LeBron versus Jordan debate of law. Okay? Because literally, contract law was written by two guys. That's it. Like, it's basically these two dudes.
One's actually named LeBron and one's actually named Jordan.
One's one's named Williston. The other one is named Corbin.
Fucking Corbin.
Fucking Corbin. We'll talk about this motherfucker later. But basically, these are the guys that did contract law. It's just like them. Williston is like the stick in the mud. His whole thing for determining integration is called the four corners test. Now, Brandon, what four corners do you think he's talking about?
The four corners in the classroom, and every time I stick in one and it gets picked, I want to kill the person that picks it in four corners. Not maybe not like this like private public like business. I guess that would be more private then, wouldn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Think very direct. Like, imagine you have the tism of our friends, and you're like, I am talking about the four corners. What do you think he's talking about?
Four corners in like a courtroom?
Close. He's talking literally about the four corners of the contract.
Oh, god damn it.
He says, this is where we look and this alone.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Only in this document. If it's outside of this document anywhere, it doesn't exist. He's like, well, not doesn't. He's basically like, there is one like way where we would look outside of the contract. It's if there's like an ambiguity, if something is strange on its face, where it's like, I will deliver you what you want, or something like that. Or like that's very direct, but if it's like clear on its face, wait, what's that mean? And then we can go outside the contract. But if by the plain meaning of the contract, we know what this agreement says, to Williston, that's all there is. This is a completely integrated document. To Williston, Remember that merger clause we talked about? A merger
Yeah.
a merger clause kills basically everything. He's like, is there a merger clause? There is. It's this document then. This is all we have to look for. Idiots. Look, just ka-chink. That's all there needs to be. Wilston can kind of be an asshole a lot of times. I agree with his approach here. Where it's like, if it's just in the contract, that's probably good enough. Now with Corbin says, this is the contract. However, look at all the free space out here. We're gonna bring it all in.
Look at the cosmic stack. Let's go get everything out.
Yeah. Corbin has the all evidence test, which is basically bring it all in. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, sure, like that might be like the quarters of the contract, but just let's just look at everything. He basically says that evidence to reveal that there's an ambiguity to help like show and like resolve an ambiguity, bring it in. So if you have evidence out here that says actually like one of these terms is like really weird, like maybe like blueberries, like we talk about blueberries all the time, Brandon, but when we talk about blueberries, we're talking about any type of berry. We call oranges blueberries. We call raspberries blueberries. Like, what if we're just kind of weird
God.
like that, and we like have these type of interactions? So when you say a box of blueberries, and I say a box of blueberries, and strawberries show up, like in the normal general course of our business, maybe that's perfectly acceptable because all we want is like some type of berry and we just use blueberries. Corbin's like, well, that's kind of really important. Maybe we should like put that in. Like if you have evidence to prove that, bring that into the contract. Wilston's like, fuck you. That's bullshit. Get that out of here.
Blueberry's a fucking blueberry.
Yeah, he's like, Wilston's like, words mean things. And Corbin's like, they mean different things to different people. In this case, I just think Wilston's like, if you have a contract, I feel like most people think contracts are like solid. Like what the contract says is what the contract means. And if it's not that, people tend to get a little pissy. So I like the Wilston method here. I think Wilston's like pretty decent. And I like the final thing is like after we determine, all right, so what's the degree of integration? How integrated in this contract? How do we understand the things here? We're going to go to step 4 of the parole evidence rule, which basically says, is the evidence consistent or contradictory to what's in like this test? And we have, of course, 2 different tests for...
God damn it.
I know. Dude, I know. It's there's never one thing. They keep on breaking this up into 2 parts, which is why
I want
I'm
to put
losing my
my
mind.
impact into law.
Yeah, I guess. Like judges.
I want my name written in the text.
Yeah, they're just like, or it's just
pussies,
judges.
dude.
It's just the judges. The judges are just like, actually, I want to go this way. It's like, okay, thank you.
I will swim against the river.
Mm-hmm. So the first test we have for like, is it contradictory? Because remember, before we talked about, look, any of the evidence you bring in can't be like, actually, we said strawberries instead of blueberries. It's just like what's on the document. You have something called the reasonable harmony test. So,
God damn it.
basically, can like the new evidence you bring in live in harmony with the document? Like, is there a way to just be like, all right, is it reasonable for these things to coexist? If they are, you can bring in the evidence. That's what it is. Then you have the complete negation test, which says, does this new evidence completely and utterly destroy the document, like blowing it to smithereens? Is it logically possible? This is it reasonable? This is if it's possible. So if I say, all right, is it reasonable to be like, over the course of our dealings, like we just had a running inside joke. No! No, I don't think that's reasonable at all. Like, what are you talking about? Like come on here. Like, sure, it might be possible. Is it reasonable? Probably not. But if you have a Corbin and you bring it in, it's like, does it completely negate? It's on the line. But we could probably get it through, because it doesn't completely blow it up. Yeah, blueberries. Yeah, it just means all berries. Do-do-do-do-do. So you have another 2 tester. You can probably see which side Williston and which side Corbin kind of fall on for the Jordan LeBron debate. You just kind of go crazy with it. Just kind of go crazy. However, Brandon, I did kind of lie to you, because there's actually another step.
3. God damn it.
This is step 0.
So before?
Before. This is the step that you technically need to do before everything else.
Oh, God damn it. Make me reorganize my notes, you piece of shit.
Well, you can kind of do it at the end, or at the beginning, or in the middle. It kind of doesn't matter, because it's just... These are exceptions to the parole evidence rule. These are times when, remember everything I've just been talking about oral evidence or evidence that is like situational and shit? These are the times when all those rules don't matter at all, and you have to completely throw them out and let in the evidence. Firstly, if the evidence is being offered to prove that like there was a condition on the contract, and we'll talk about conditions soon. Like, is there something where it's like, before this contract comes into effect, before I give you the blueberries, like, you need to do a funny dance. Well, guess what? You can bring in that evidence, like, whenever you want. That's fine. The second thing is, if you're bringing in the evidence for defense. So if there's, like, undue influence, if there's duress, if there's fraud, if we had, like, an oral thing where it's like, hey, Brandon, this time I really mean blueberries and nothing else, and then I send you strawberries. Whoa, I just kind of like defrauded you. So yeah, you can bring that evidence in, no matter what. Or, and this is the big one, if it resolves an ambiguity, if we really don't know what we mean by the berries, remember this whole conversation we just had? Blow it up. The evidence comes in no matter what, because it's helping to resolve the ambiguity of what is a blueberry. Cha-ching!
Sorry if I'm not being interacted. I'm typing.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm studying for the final.
No, it's just crazy, because you're like, oh shit, wait, this entire analysis I was doing doesn't even matter, because this is like one of the 3 types of evidence that it's always let in. Shit. So that's where we kind of hang out. That's where we vibe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little funny like that. So that's kind of like the final step of the parole evidence rule. So it's they say it's 4 steps, but it's 5. But one step's just the exception step. And then there's so many different tests within the parole evidence rule. It's kind of like the parole evidence tree, where like every branch has so many other branches, and you're just like, wait, where am I even going in this tree? And eventually you just might be like, oh, well, actually I could have let it in the entire time. Yeet! There goes the analysis.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Basically, like, the biggest thing when you're looking at this parole evidence and what a contract means is going, all right, what are the parties like? How complete is this contract? Like, if it's a 100-page contract, I'm going to assume the parties thought of everything. If it's written on the back of a napkin, that's probably not a very complete contract at all. It's probably not very integrated. So, like, in the Grim Covenant, probably a pretty integrated contract. It's a fairly long contract. It's fairly in depth. Covers a lot of terms. Has, like, liquidated damages. There's a lot of sophistication there. Yeah. probably not a lot of room for parole evidence. Like, there's probably like 4 corners in there. Maybe, unless you have a Corbin idea of thinking or whatnot. But like the general mindset of courts is like, the more complete a contract, the less we're gonna throw in parole evidence, and with sophistication and shit like that. Like if it's mom and pop, like if Brandon, if you were making a contract with Connor, they're gonna let in a shit ton of evidence because you're not very sophisticated. Like you guys could be like, and it's not like, are you smart or not? It's at what level do you know the law and contract law and everything, which is like none. So they're just gonna be like, yeah, these fuckers probably didn't know what they were doing. Let it all in.
We summon Cthulhu.
We summon Cthulhu. But now we get to talk about the true ambiguities of the contract. Because ambiguity is where a lawyer makes their money when it comes to contracts.
Oh, that is a G.
Yeah, it's a G.
Looks like an S.
What, this?
Oh, you fixed it now.
It's a G. Yeah, ambiguity. So, this is where everyone is like, okay, get my lawyer, find the ambiguity. It's like, all right, well, this is where you do it. There are 3 types of ambiguities. A patent ambiguity, a latent ambiguity, and a gap ambiguity. Patent. On the face of, like, the contract, there's an ambiguity. If I just put berries in the contract. All right, what type of berries? Like, that's ambiguous, right? Like, that's crazy. Latent ambiguity. This is, all right, not on the face there was an ambiguity, but when the contract gets going, when we peel back the layers, it was. So, like, the blueberries are actually all berries thing is a latent ambiguity in the contract. Then the gap, which is like, oh, deliver me berries, but if I don't tell you in what box, then the contract goes here, and it might go here where it tells you like the time and date to deliver, but it doesn't tell you like how many berries and what box, like what condition. Like there's just a gap there, and you're trying to like get through the gap to survive and shit like that. And so these are the things that you kind of have to look for in contracts. Depending on the ambiguity, like I think this is more kind of high level, but I don't really think it matters too much the type at all. It's just like, can you spot the ambiguity? Because from what I understand, I handle a patent ambiguity, a latent ambiguity, and a gap ambiguity literally the same. It doesn't really matter. I have to know all 3 because I'm a smart law student, but it doesn't affect anything, really. Like, how do I identify them? Is the grammar off? Is there a conflict between terms? Are there words with multiple meanings? Like, obvious shit for if something is an ambiguity or not. However, Brandon, this is what's going to kill me. There is a list. This is a hierarchy, Brandon. It's an exact hierarchy for resolving ambiguities. I have to run through the entire list of like, and each one is more important than the next. So it's like you have to just go down the list to be like, this is what it is. I'm going to try to run through it from memory. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but this is studying. And Contracts 2 is 2x harder than Contracts 1. So, yippee.
This is like the knit and grit of it.
Yeah, it's like I'm down in the weeds like, what's a chicken? What's a berry?
We scrubbed off the first layer of grime, and now we see we need way more stuff to take out grime too.
I take a hit of cocaine. I'm like, what's in the 4 corners of this contract? What do you mean? What do you mean I bring in all the evidence?
What the fuck's a berry?
What the fuck's a berry? What do you mean there's a liquidated damages clause for a berry? Are you telling me you can't reasonably foresee the berry market? Wait, is that actually a thing? Are berries a really up and down industry where the price of a berry fluctuates like insanely depending on year to year?
How much liquid is in the berry?
How much liquid?
Wait, no, off topic. Off topic. Never mind.
Were you unjustly enriched? I'm gonna kill myself. So, all right, here we go. So,
Okay.
number one. I'm just gonna try to run through them all. So this is what they did. What have the parties actually done in like looking at the contract? So if we continue to act like any berries okay, and despite our contracts, maybe in the past, like other contracts said berries, but I delivered oranges, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, whatever, and it all just kind of worked. That's what we look to first, what you did. The second is negotiations, what we talked about before. So if we've talked about how like berries can mean anything before, okay, that's fine. But if we talked about, hey, guess what? This time, the berries need to be strawberries. All right, we'll put more weight here. But also, with the hierarchy, we look to this first. I'm pretty sure, like it's gonna be what we did. But actually no, because here what we did was talk about it. So we talk about it, which leads here. So it's actually the negotiations that go up first. I think that's how a judge would resolve it in a brief and say like this is what we actually do now. Then we look for. I know 5. I think it's public interest. 5 is public interest. 6, just what's in the interest of the public. Resolving terms so that things make sense. So there's harmony. 7 is contra pro forentum, which this basically means this is the last gasp. If nothing else makes sense, the contract goes against the person who created it. So whoever created the contract has it bite them in the ass because you're the one who created the contract. So you have to be the one to go ahead and support and shit. So if you fucked up making the contract, we're gonna come back on you. What's 3 and 4? Oh, I fucked up too. So negotiations also is here. So I need to slide these down one. The first one's actually how everyone performed. So this is doing what they were doing. So they first looked to what was going on, what were you doing, how were both parties acting, were they acting like this is normal, like were they expecting blueberries or did it not matter, blah 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 blah. Then it's what they did, then it's negotiations, and finally there's trade usages. This is basically like because maybe we're in the berry industry, is it normal to just say like blueberries for all berries? That's what this means.
Oh, so like slang,
Yeah,
trade slang.
Yeah, trade slang. And I mean, I'm sure you know tons of examples of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the law is mostly contra pro forentum. Like that's just slang.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to know all of these pretty much in this order and be able to
And know how to break them all. Oh, fuck.
And so like I know what they all are. I can analyze them all. It's just getting the order down, and that's just gonna be me memorizing shit.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of memorization because sure, I guess. Love memorizing things. Let's see. What is next here? Finally we're moving into conditions. So, conditions. We've hinted at it before. Conditions basically tell people when to perform a contract. They're not like a promise you make. It's like, before the promise happens, you need to do this. and then we can start the contract. So it's like a condition would be like, meet me at this spot to get the berries or something. There are 3 types of conditions because, of course, more things for me to memorize. The first are express conditions. These are just like clear in the contract. You must do this so that this. The second is constructed conditions. These are conditions made by the court. The court basically says, so that this contract can function, here's a condition that we're putting in, so that it keeps on going. And like, because courts generally want contracts to keep going. We talked about this a few months ago. If the court can keep a contract alive, it will. Mm-hmm. And then you have the last, which is like implied in fact. These conditions the court adds in, but the court adds them in because they're like, they must have thought about this. Where it's like a condition would be like, hey, you meet me to pick up the berries. It's like, yeah, duh. I don't think they would put in a contract, hey, we have to get together and you have to hand me like the goods. Like that doesn't, like that's so basic. No one would put that in a contract. So like those are the 3 conditions. Now, for conditions made by the parties, you have to perform this condition perfectly. This requires perfect performance. If there's any error in the condition, you have failed, and the other one is released from their duty. They don't need to perform the contract anymore. They don't need to perform their side. These 2 can just be substantial performance. I like to say good enough. Just need to be like good, decent. Doesn't need to be perfect because the court created them. Like it wasn't explicit. If people in the contract explicitly agree to the condition, you have to do it perfectly because you agreed to it. If the court makes it up, you just have to be like good enough. Good enough. You tried. Whatever. See, what else do I talk about with these? I mean, there are some like boilerplate conditions, like time is of the essence. Like there might be in a part of contract a time is of the essence clause. Well, time is of the essence isn't a condition unless you like explicitly say time is of the essence by this date. Like act here. You can't just say do this quickly. You have to say do it quickly by this date. It has to be explicit. You have to it has to be clear. I have to know why time is of the essence. I need to go ahead and know I need to start like doing it now. Now, usually both parties will have conditions placed on them because the courts want both people to have things they have to do because that makes a contract like stronger essentially. Because if you fulfilled your condition but the other person didn't fulfill their condition, it's very easy to say no contract. Because like if it goes like one way, if something is like a promise, like I promise to do something, I have a promise but you have a condition, even if you haven't done your condition, I have to do my promise because they're not like bound together. We want to bind our conditions together so that if you don't uphold your end of the deal, I don't have to uphold my end of the deal. And there are rules for that. So like if there are dates for like when things have to happen, we're going to follow the dates or the specified times. If we could perform our conditions at the same time, where it's like I do one thing, you do the other, and it's like A equals A, we have to do it at the same time. Like, if we can't be done at the same time, we will. The fuck?
No. Food?
I don't think so. I don't care. Is it the cops? No, not the cops. Just a random person. Whatever. Sorry, I'm busy. I'm studying. Fuck off. What next? So, let's say, Brandon, I have a condition that can be done, like, instantly. It takes 0 time at all. But you have a condition that takes 10 days. you have to act first, and then I act. That's it. What the fuck is going on? Bro, I do not care. Yeah, not expecting anything. They're just gonna have to deal with it. I don't care. I'm not expecting anyone. There doesn't seem to be an emergency. We're good. They ring my doorbell again. I guess I'll head down there. What?
Now they're knocking.
Oh my god. It was a dumbass DoorDasher, bro. Wasn't even me. I was like, could please, like, what are you doing? They're like, I was like, please go away. Please. Because it wasn't for me, because I always say, like, drop off at my door. Drop it off at the door. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't... Why would you be so persistent, is my question. I don't think anyone at...
God, I gotta deliver the order. I gotta finish the story.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone, though, at like 10 p.m. at night is like, yes, just... Bang, 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 bang. Ring, 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 ring. Like, like, please stop. Like, are you crazy? I hope the poor soul who is getting that McDonald's doesn't go through the same thing. It was just my neighbor over, so I think I might hear ringing. Oh my god. This girl's an idiot.
SWAT Team 6.
SWAT Team 6. Let's see. What else, though? What else? Okay, yeah. If you have time, you have to perform first. You have to do your thing before I can perform all at once. And if it's still unclear, intent of the parties. Basically, if anything's unclear, look to what the people intended. That's the golden rule of contract law. If you don't know what's going on, what do the people intend to do? If you can figure that out, awesome. Like, all these rules are for figuring out what people actually wanted. Do they make a lot of sense sometimes? I mean, people are strange and weird. I guess it's good enough. You're also looking for a principle, though, called divisibility. Basically, if it's like, there's like promise A, which is like the berries, let's say. So we have our berry promise. And we have a promise B, which is like, I don't know, like paint my house. Or like do the HVAC. In the principle of divisibility, let's say I fall through with my berry promise, but this paint promise is still there. The court will use a concept called divisibility to cut that contract in half and say, these are two separate contracts on one piece of paper. This one's invalid, but this one's still good. So just because you broke one doesn't mean you broke them all, because we'll cut it in half to preserve the contract. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Just because one thing went bad doesn't mean the entire thing is bad. it's gotta be like, you gotta either say, actually, these two were one thing, or guess what? You didn't actually paint my house either. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You can wiggle your
Oh, we're
way out.
making a contract. Let's just knock it out in one.
Yep, just no. Like, okay. Because they're like, all right, you can put it on one paper. Doesn't mean since everything's on one paper, it's one contract.
Yeah.
You can claim it's one contract. Doesn't necessarily mean it's one contract. Now, in order to differentiate, like, let's say for A, like there's money, and then for like B, it's like, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, give you like free rides to the airport or something. These have to be separate, like, because remember, offer, acceptance, consideration. These things are separate pieces of consideration, so they can be separate contracts. But if they were both for the same amount of money, let's say, well, guess what? We can't find different contracts, because then if we said, okay, like, they're both for the same amount of money or whatnot, and this doesn't exist, B doesn't have consideration. Therefore, B is not a contract, and you just killed a contract. So, problematic. So you have to be splitting with consideration on either side. People often forget. They're just like, oh, I can just split this. It's like, well, is there that other piece? You need the other piece. It needs to be a full and complete contract. And if it's not, oopsie doopsies, not good. Now we can also talk about how sometimes a failure to do something doesn't kill the contract. Like, if a contract, like, if there is a part of the contract that fails, it will keep going unless the failure is material, or if it's the point of the contract. And like, there are rules for like how to figure out like if something is the point. The entire contract can die potentially. Well, I don't want to say potentially. Oh no, I will say potentially. Like, these are just like factors that you can use. Where if it's like, oh, if like, what is the extent of the injury? Could you be fairly compensated? Can this be fixed in the future? Like, is there a likelihood that like we can cure the performance in some way? Like, is there a lack of like good faith or fair dealing? Like, that's one of the bigger ones where it's like, oh, like, maybe this isn't completely material to the contract, but if you're actively being a shitty person, guess what? We have the potential to strike that down. Now, that's in the 1930s, when the courts were cool, when we were strong then, when we would say, fuck you, Campbell Soup. But now we're just like really sad because it's not, I mean, it's not the 1930s anymore. That's probably kind of a good thing. But like, now we just don't stand up for ourselves. So, rip to us. But it's basically like, how big a deal is this? Is this a big deal? Can this be fixed? That's how I like to think about it. Is this a big deal? Can this be fixed? What's the injury like? Are you being an asshole? Is there, like, fair play? Are your hands unclean? If they are, yeet, be gone, creature. Let's see. I think now we're moving into the final part of conditions, which is like excuses. Like, because sometimes the courts can excuse a condition or discharge you of a condition. So an excuse is just basically, guess what? That condition or you not doing something is forgiven. A discharge means you no longer have a duty to do something. So you didn't do something, and it's forgiven. That's an excuse. You no longer have to do something as a discharge. Then you have waiver, which is just, I don't have this right anymore. I'm waiving a right that I have. So like if the condition for you was, before you get the blueberries, let's say, you need to send me a photo of like where you're gonna put the
My
berries or
dick.
something. If you're no, where you're gonna put the berries, and you're like, oh, the camera broke. Like I don't have a camera, and I'm like, that's
Okay.
and I'm like, all right, that's okay. That doesn't matter. I've waived that condition. I've waived it. I don't have a right to that condition anymore. Or,
Is it sort of like a thing you would have to agree upon? You only waive it this one time, or is it?
it depends. It depends on the
It
intent.
depends. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that would be an
Fair.
ambiguity,
Fair.
which we'd have to
Yep.
run through and figure that out. There's also something called estoppel, which we also kind of talked about last time, where it's that detrimental reliance. So if you said, oh, like, don't worry, I have a Polaroid, I'll bring a picture of the place I'm going to put it at the meeting, but I've taken the picture. And I go, oh, he said he took the picture. I guess I'll load everything up. We're good. Condition met. But when I
Yeah.
get there, it's like, oh, you didn't take the picture at all. And I go like, well, where do I put the berries and stuff? He's like, oh, I don't actually have a space cleared out. I was hoping you'd help me, blah, blah, blah. I say, well, hey, you violated the condition because you induced me to do something to my detriment. So I can stop something because it's not good. Like it's a misleading conduct or statement. So you induced me to kind of like do something I wouldn't have otherwise done. So that's
Well,
not
you're
good.
here now. You might as well just help me.
Yeah, and so the court's like, yeah, we don't want people to be able to do that. That kind of sucks. Because there's also the concept of like bad faith, where it's like if you
Yeah.
take an action that's in bad faith, no. There's also extreme forfeiture, which is kind of like if the condition is so bad and it's just unfair, we're not going to have you do it. We're not going to have you like follow through, really. So if it's like the condition is instead of like take one picture, it's completely 3D map the interior of the space. It's like what are you talking about? Like for berries? Like if you talk about like, oh, I'm bringing you a box of berries, and in return, like I need you to like 3D like map the space you're in. Uh-uh. No, that's kind of crazy. So we're not going to do that. And basically for that, just look at like how disproportionate is it? Like how big of the burden is on one side versus like how the return is on another. Like if you don't have this, if the space isn't 3D map, that doesn't like hurt the berry giver at all. Like that's just ridiculous. When it might cost you thousands of dollars. So we're not going to do it. Whatever. There's the concept of like materiality. Like how material is it? I mean, we've kind of already like went over that. Doesn't really matter. So then there is like if you're concerned about a condition, like the taking of the picture of the space, there can be something called an anticipatory repudiation, and it basically goes before performance is due. I need to like voluntarily communicate to you like, hey, you're gonna do this, right? You're gonna do this, and you have to say, no, I'm not gonna do it. It has to be unequivocal. It has to be absolute. It has to be like, I'm not gonna perform this duty, and if you do that, contract is revoked. Like we're in breach. You basically have breached the contract. Now I can also ask for like an assurance to say like, hey, like I need you to give me some like sufficient assurance where it could be like money or like another like promise, oath, like whatever, like that this is gonna happen. But I need like reasonable grounds to like ask you for it. And if that does not happen, if you don't give me those reasonable grounds, that's also a breach because like you didn't give me an assurance. So like the effect of like not providing the assurance is just like or you pull back the contract. It's done. If I don't have a reason though, like if you've given me no reason to ask for an assurance and then you try to like pull out of the contract, like then or if I try to pull out of the contract, then I'd be in breach because you've done nothing to suggest that you're going to pull out of the contract. So like why are you making all these demands? Like we're not going to be able to force someone to keep making demands all the time. Like there has to be some reasonable basis for the demand to produce the evidence. Um, another element of like why there could be an excuse is it's just impractical. There's there is like the concept of this impracticability. So like usually it's like the occurrence of an unforeseen event, like maybe your pipes completely burst or there's an asteroid, and it makes the party's performance impracticable. You can't really do it. Um, the non-occurrence of the event was a basic assumption of the contract. None of us assumed that there would be a pipe bursting in the place where the berries would be, let's say. So like you can't buy the berries, whatnot. Like that was something basic we just didn't assume. You had no fault in it. If you had no fault in the pipe bursting, it's just like maybe faulty building or something. That's another factor. And like you didn't assume the risk. Basically, like you didn't account for it in the contract for seeing it or anything else. Like you didn't actively say, "Oh, like this pipe might burst," or even if the pipe does burst, even though none of us think about it, that it will burst. Like it's fine. So there's that. If it's just like out of nowhere, it's become impractical. Something happened, you can be excused, which I think makes sense. A lot of sense. Good job, courts. There's also like the concept of frustration, which is that there's an event that basically makes the principal purpose of the contract invalid. So impractical means like I just can't like do it. Frustration is, oh, I was getting these berries for a wedding or something like that. And the wedding, everyone in the wedding fucking died by an asteroid. So I don't need the berries anymore. It was a completely unforeseen event. It's not my fault. We didn't assume the risk at all. Let's say in the contract, like there's no assumption of the risk. It's like, oh, it's just there's no point for me to have this contract anymore. Like the entire thing it was for is gone. I still think I think that probably a court with my knowledge of frustration would be like, yeah, if the entire point was for this wedding to get all these berries, this box of berries, and the wedding's not happening, okay, sure. But you probably have to put it in the contract, like this is the entire point of why I'm getting these berries. Or,
Yeah.
or it's mainly like, oh, like deliver these berries to the wedding. If the wedding's no longer happening, that like frustrates the entire point of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the main thing. Kind of like last broad topic though. This is a quick one. So, you know what's better than plaintiff versus defendant, Brandon? Plaintiff versus defendant, plus there's a third party coming in.
What do you mean there's a third party?
Brandon, there's an entire world of contracts where people who have not been sued, who are not in this case, come in and say, this is my business now. So there are something called third-party beneficiaries. So contracts can be given to people. I could say, guess what? Like, this whole berry contract I have with you, I'm giving my part of the contract to deliver the berries to, let's say, Ryan. And now Ryan has, like, that part of the contract. So it can be assigned. So he becomes, like, kind of a third party. He'd be it can be, like, assigned. Very important, though. If I assign the contract to Ryan, let's say, I'm still on the hook because I originally made the contract.
Yeah.
There's another thing, though, called a novation. And a novation basically says, this whole first contract's done, I'm making a new contract with the exact same terms, outlined in the exact same way, but I'm just released. That's what a novation is.
Yeah. We talked about that a little with like ownership of like rent and stuff, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And both you and me have to agree for the novation. A novation can't be one
Yeah.
way. An assignment can be one way. So that's kind of fun. There's also the problem of like, well, what happens when there's a suit? So you have PVD, and then you have a third party who wants to like come in and do something and like get inside the suit. First thing they need is standing in the contract. How do they get standing? Two ways. If they are an intended beneficiary, so if like they're listed in the contract as getting something. So if it's like, okay, we have this berry contract, but Ryan is going to get like a part of the money I make from selling berries, and like that's written into the contract. Like a debt is going to be paid off. Then, yippee! He's a third party beneficiary. He's an intended beneficiary. He can be brought into the contract. Then you have an incidental beneficiary who is not intended to be a beneficiary. They are a little like weirder. Basically, they don't really have standing as much. They're just like, oh, you weren't intended, but like you're benefiting. Like, I'm trying to think. I don't think in our berry example there would be an incidental beneficiary unless it's like the maybe it's like the if you were intending to give the berries to like a baker and the baker knew it, or like some like futures owner was like, oh, I'm betting on the berry stock market, and if this deal goes through I'm gonna make a lot of money. Like it's kind of crazy, but that's who we'd be talking about.
Yeah.
um
All this fruit talk makes me like remember like the little cup of peaches you get in like elementary school and just how much I didn't like them.
oh yeah, those
I
were
don't know why.
gross.
I'm just remembering the taste. All this fruit talk.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Let's talk about something else then. So let's say that we have this beneficiary, like Ryan is the beneficiary. But let's say we try and modify the contract, you and me, that says, actually, I'm going to get all the money. Can Ryan come in and stop that and say, no, I'm in this contract. This is mine. This is mine. Do you think he could come in and be like, actually, no, Brandon and Colin, you can't change your contract?
if he's gonna, I mean, I'm trying to think of it in the sense of like the stock market thing.
Hmm.
I feel like it depends, but
You're
yes.
right. It does depend. So
I'm just sorry. That's just yeah.
now you're starting to see why the law is so hard, because you're like, you have to constantly balance.
Depends.
Like, it depends. So normally, generally, usually, you can modify it because it's only you and me. Like, they don't have standing, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can't further modify it if the contract vests. If it starts imparting its benefit onto you. Like, if the deal's already done, we can't go back around and be like, well, you don't get the money. Sorry, we're going to change it. Even if it's like begun. Maybe like I'm giving the berries to you in like 3 stages. And after stage 1, we change the contract. Not going to work out. You also can't modify it if like Ryan said, hey, because of the money I thought I was getting, I bought a house. I relied, and he would be stopped, or we would be stopped from changing the contract. And then like he can technically sue to enforce the contract and say like, hey, I'm relying on this, I'm going to sue to enforce it. Or like if he's manifested like an agreement to be like, oh yes, like I want this contract to be a thing. I'm relying on it. But basically, it's all about reliance, to my knowledge, of what's going on with the modification. And then, like contracts being assigned, they can be assigned again. Normally, generally, usually, whenever we want, unless it would materially change like the duty of someone who had a duty, it would increase the burden or the risk, or if it would impair the risk of like getting a certain kind of performance. So let me kind of break that down. So if the duty would change is like I'm trying to think, or if the contract, if you had the contract for the berries, like you were buying them and you assigned it to Ryan, but Ryan lived in Alaska, that would like change the duty significantly. Probably not gonna go, especially if I need to get like fresh berries there. Like that duty would very much change. And that's also like increasing the burden or the risk. Like the burden would be very much increased. Or like, because if it was just like Ryan, another local farmer, getting the berries to you and you were in place and I assigned the contract to him, that's completely okay because it's not really changing the duty. The burden hasn't been increased and there's like no real risk of attaining that specific performance. So no one cares. So we're fine. But if any of those things change, it's bad. And the last one basically is like, oh, perhaps I am like the best berry farmer in town, and my berries are like 5 times the size of Ryan's berries. Well, then, like, what you're getting has materially changed, or it's been reduced in value, so we're not going to allow that to go through. You can't assign it if, like, the same thing can't happen. It's like, if you were running a music festival, and Lady Gaga assigned her role in the festival, and like her agreement to play at the festival to Metallica. A bunch of gays going there to see Lady Gaga when Metallica starts riffing. Like, yes, Metallica would be awesome, but like they were here for Gaga. Like there is something materially different here. They didn't get the performance they wanted. Throw that shit out.
I will say I don't know a single gay person that would not also be thrilled for Metallica, but I do understand what you're saying.
I know. Most gay people would not be thrilled for Metallica.
They wouldn't.
No gay person in this group would be thrilled for Metallica.
Be thrilled for Metallica.
No, you wouldn't.
I think I would.
No, you wouldn't.
I like their music.
What? Okay, other than Master of Puppets, Sandman, like...
I don't think we need to get into this.
I'm just saying, like, at a Metallica concert, like, I've gone to a Metallica concert. I do not think it would be good. Or at least, at the very least, people would be like, this is very different from what I signed up for.
No, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Then, at least for, like, how something is assigned, how you assign a contract, like, there needs to be a manifestation of intent. Like, you need to... someone has to be like, I want to assign it, and then the other person has to be like, I accept. Pretty easy to understand. And, like, the manifestation may be made to, like, the third party on their behalf if like, there's, like, a certain statute where it's like, oh, like, I can, through these certain ways, say it's okay. It's like a contractor, where it's the contractor goes, I can't do this work, but I can like sign up this form and shift this to another contractor, and they will pick up the slack. And that contractor can't do it; they'll just shift that to another contractor, and it goes ring around the rosy sometimes. But you would usually have to have like a certain amount of like goodwill with that contractor. They would have to be notified that it's happening and kind of give it the okay, of course, intent. And then, like, duty can be assigned, designated, whatever, unless it's, like, contrary to public policy or, like, the terms of the promise. Like, again, what we've just been talking about. So if something goes against public policy, probably not good. And then you have, like, novations as well. And the nitty-gritty of a novation is there was a previous contract. All the new people say, including the new party, there's a new contract, there's a complete release and discharge of all duties, and then you create a valid and enforceable contract between the original party and the new party. Well, you kick the other one out. In essence, you trash the first contract, come up with a new contract.
What is that word again? Novation?
Novation. Novatation. Novation. It's like a no vacation.
Okay.
No vacation. And essentially, like, those are third parties. Third parties are always trying to jump into a situation. Either they're like being assigned like parts of the contract, or they're trying to get in and sue, and they're being weird like that.
Ugh.
The main thing is the third party, if they're trying to get into a case, or did they rely on the contract in some way, or did they like actually like say, hey, I'm relying on the contract, like I want to be a part of this, like this is what I want to be happening here. If they did, if they were kind of like a part of that process in a way, or they actually like sue to enforce, okay, you can't just change or modify the contract whenever. And you can't assign it if the assignment would like fuck something over really bad. There would be a undue burden, you get something else in return, whatever. Whether or not you can assign, there's also intent there. And then novation is just the creation of a whole new contract for third parties. But in general, that's high-level contracts too.
I have 4 pages of notes.
That's good. I
I
have
have one single line of notes, and it just says Lady Gaga does not equal Metallica.
Lady Gaga does not equal Metallica. No. I don't know how well they would. A bunch of old white dudes dropping F slurs on stage. But hey, they could attempt it.
Listen, Peter would be very disappointed after I heard what he listens to.
What does he listen to?
Well, you heard his hype song, remember? He posted.
I don't remember
It's
it.
it's just twerk music.
Oh, that's right. It's just twerk music.
It's just twerk music. He would be very disappointed.
True. What can you do? So yeah, in general, Brandon, those are contracts. Contract is a legally enforceable promise. You have restitution, which is just making sure that there's no unjust enrichment. Liquidated damages, when the damages are unforeseen, you can put a reasonable amount of money that you're going to get when there's a breach. Coercive equitable relief that is there when there is no ability to have money damages, the court forcing you to do something, generally through an injunction. What else did we talk about? We talked about parole evidence rule, bringing in oral or extrinsic evidence through those steps and processes. How do we look at it? We look at if the contract, if the evidence is even parole evidence, how integrated is it? How do we figure out how integrated it is? The Williston Four Corners test or the Corbin All Evidence test. But remember, we have step 0, and at step 0, we're going through and going like, oh my goodness, are one of these things like showing an ambiguity or revealing a condition? Because remember, if you can reveal a condition, evidence comes in. Or stuff like that, like, okay, we're going to bring in parole evidence, but then parole evidence can be like ambiguity. What's an ambiguity? 3 types. Patent, latent, gap. Do they really matter? Probably not. The 7 hierarchies go through an order, starting at what they were doing, stopping down at contra pro forentum. Yippee. Lots of stuff in between, including trade usage. That's number 4 on the hierarchy. Going through it some more, we end up at conditions, 3 types of conditions: express, constructive, and implied in fact, or just implied. Those conditions, if it's made by the parties, you have to do them perfectly. Made by the court, you have to do it just good enough. Conditions detail when people basically perform, when they act. If you can do it at the same time, you have to do it at the same time. Brandon, if one takes more time, if one's instant, one taking more time happens first, the instant one happens second. If we can't figure it out, intent of the party is yippee skippy. Then, of course, we run down after we start figuring out those conditions. We're like, all right, how do we get out of conditions? Excuse, discharge, whatnot. Excuse and discharge, how do we get out of it? Well, if there's extreme forfeiture, if it's just blatantly unfair, if it becomes impractical for some unforeseen event to actually do the condition, that's one thing. Or, of course, we can have, what's the other one? This is the one I'm blanking on because frustration. I was like, dang, this is making me frustrated. Oh, wait, it's that. So the contract can also be frustrated if, like, over the course of doing something, the entire point of the contract's done. We'll just excuse or discharge the duty because, like, what's the point of the contract anymore? You don't need to do it. Ending us at third parties, and of course we just talked about third parties. And if I just learn all of this, I might get a C. Because this is just the high-level overview. I need to be able to go into cases for all of this. Like Campbell's Soup. Or Bethlehem Steel. Or so much else. But those are contracts.
You have to be able to imply it actually into things.
Yep, I have to... It's one thing, like, it's literally 10% of my... I don't want to say 10. It's 25% of my grade to, like, know what it means. Mm-hmm. It's another 75% to analyze. Be like, this is it. No, I suppose it's 70% of my grade. 5% of my grade is... And then throw a case name in there. And through all of it, like... Thing with law school exams is something could not matter. You still need to raise and dismiss it. So I could be working on a problem about frustration. I have to raise and dismiss impracticability and say, like, why it doesn't make sense here. And if I don't, then it's the wrong answer. But
I caramba.
But yet those are contracts. They are interesting little things requiring decent amount of foresight. Basically, at the core thing with all of this is just the North Star is what did you intend? What did you and the other person think about? And if you didn't think about anything, you didn't think about a term, and there's, like, nothing to go off of, whoever made the contract's getting screwed. Like, if it's just something that everyone forgot to mention, didn't think about. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions, Brandon, or I guess you too, Jamie, that I can expand on? Because if you don't know something... Maybe I don't know something that could help me study more. Or maybe I'm just a brilliant teacher.
I truthfully have not been here long enough to have a question.
I know.
I mean, not really.
Okay, I think I did a good enough job then.
You gave plenty of examples on everything.
Good.